Hello and welcome to this episode of HBCU. I'm your host, D. Brown, CEO. Joining me on the show today is my special guest, Larry Goodin. Larry comes here by way of Alcorn State University. Larry, welcome to the show.
Hey, pleasure to have me. Thank you.
The pleasure is all mine. Larry, I want to start the show by talking about Alcorn. Now, this is a little, known fact. I actually attended Alcorn for one semester, my freshman year, before transferring to then Memphis State University. So I'm familiar with the academic resort and all of that campus life as well. But I want to understand from you, how did you select Alcorn State University?
So Alcorn State was never my first choice. I always share that in any panel interview that I speak on. Growing up, I'm originally from Natchez, Mississippi, and growing up in Mississippi back in the early 2000s, 1999, 2000, 2001, HBCUs were sort of frowned upon. It wasn't the number one choice that parents would want for their students, their children. So I was aiming for Mississippi State, USM, University of Texas, et cetera. And I had an opportunity to meet Dr. Clinton Bristow Jr. while attending Copiah Lincoln Community College. I had an opportunity to sit down and talk with him. And he was the influencer that really sort of opened my eyes that Alcorn State University would be the sounding board for my professional career. And, I received a full academic scholarship to Alcorn State. I did my final 2 years of undergrad there. And also I did an additional semester because I was a part of several organizations on campus. And for the most part, I would say Alcorn really prepared me for a career in international affairs, a career in higher ed that I had no idea would ever exist in my life.
Wow. So we'll get a chance to talk about that a little bit more as the show progresses, but I also want to understand and kind of take this walk back with you to talk about, when you first made it to Alcorn, what was that experience like your freshman year?
So
well, I guess you actually went as a junior, correct?
Correct. Right. I was a junior, correct. So it was amazing. Living in Natchez, you have exposure to the HBCU life because you're in high school, you're attending the step shows, et cetera. But I think actually being a student and walking on campus, knowing that in 2 years, this will be my bachelor degree, this will be on my resume.
Yeah.
I was a little afraid because I felt that I wasn't prepared. The HBCU experience, everyone, they're presidential, the linens, the clothing, the lifestyle, you have your own car, et cetera. But for me, it was very humbling. And I would equate that to just not really knowing what the HBCU life really was outside of just step shows and bands and football games. You actually have an opportunity to walk into a classroom and see a Black professor, who looks like you, who genuinely has your best interests, but also is challenging status quo and encouraging you to, this the academic resort. You will earn your grade.
Right.
Nothing is given to you. Yeah.
So what were some of the moments that you remember most about attending Alcorn?
I think I would narrow it down to three. I think the number one experience or moment that I had was actually walking into the president's office and being inducted into the men's club and knowing that, people in my family were like, loggers working at International Paper or, different cleaning services around the community, but I actually had an opportunity to be exposed to a professional Black male that I saw myself in.
Yeah.
I would also say, exposure to Kappa Alpha Psi and knowing that, as a kid, you went to and attended a Greek step show, but now I actually have the opportunity to join a Black Greek letter organization, and that I've worked really hard to have the GPA, et cetera, to be a part. And I would also say the third experience was traveling abroad, being at an HBCU and having an opportunity to travel for the first time ever on an airplane. I was traveling from Jackson, Mississippi to to Accra, Ghana with a few of my professors. And that would sort of be the birth of my international affairs career, where I had an opportunity to not only just see a person, a Caucasian or white person or a Black or African American person, but I'm actually in a different culture, in a different continent, interacting with true Africans who are really doing amazing things within the Ghanaian community.
So who were some of the professors or staff members that most shaped your academic career, as well as helped you and mentored you on your career path?
I would definitely say the former president, Dr. Clint Bristow Jr., Esquire. I would say Dr. Napoleon Moses, all of the instructors from the Industrial Technology Building. I just can't name one because everyone played a big part. And, my enrollment and my advisor, Irvin Casely Hayford, who's was a big point because he not only focused on the admission part, but he also helped me figure out and sort through the many different scholarships that were out there and available to students. But he helped me sort of strategize which scholarship would be more financial feasible for me to not only pursue my undergrad, but it would also cover a fraction of my graduate studies. So Irving Casely Hayford really had the best interests of myself.
So talk to me about your graduate degree. I know that you attended Harvard for your graduate studies.
Yeah, so correct. So Harvard was a part of the professional education, which was in school leadership and innovative management. But my MBA, I actually attended a program at Rutgers University, and it was in partnership with Keller Graduate School of Management. The thing that most people don't know about me is that higher ed was sort of at the middle section of my career, but on the front end, I actually spent time working in the manufacturing sector with a Fortune 100 company, Kraft Foods, where I started off as a production supervisor and worked my way up through middle management. But again, in connecting the narrative of the HBCU, you're talking back in 2005, where many times when you walk into a setting and everyone's talking about their credentials and you say an HBCU in 2005, people cringed or sort of, they really lack knowledge about the existence and the importance of the HBCU, particularly in the Mississippi, Deep South. So when I connect that to my education, I always say that, Harvard is there, Rutgers is there, Keller Graduate School is there. But at the end, everything starts with Alcorn, because that was my first true representation of what college represented, what a true professional Black male in a suit, Dr. Bristow, Dr. Moses, what they represented, and just the etiquette of being a polished and professional young Black male.
So what do you, if you had to summarize a couple things that you like most about the academic resort, what would be those things?
It's so much, and it's interesting because right now I flew in last night and I'm actually here at Alcorn State University, and this meeting sort of gave birth. So this is the universe speaking to me, but I would say just the professors, knowing that, you have professors who want you to earn the A, but they, at that time, and I can't speak now, I would hope and pray that it's still the same or better, but knowing that professors had your best interest both on the academia side as well as the possibility of going into the technical and functional side of an internship.
Right.
They talked about the importance of academics, but they also talked about what life would look like beyond the exam or the final. Right. And that was something I personally found value in. I would also say, the community, knowing that you have, from a social, emotional piece, knowing that you always had someone around the clock that you can confide in and that you can reach out to if you're having an emotional breakdown or you've had some type of emergency, et cetera, knowing that you had someone around the clock to reach out to. Yeah. Because, that's very important. For many students like myself, I was a first generation college student. My parents knew nothing about college.
Right.
If I was stressed out from a midterm, my mom is just like, hey, listen, put some olive oil on your head and, I'm praying for you. I'm like, Mom, it takes more than that when you take it
Sound like my
in
mama.
bliss. So
So,
just
go ahead.
yeah, so just knowing that you have that community and that support system and people who genuinely cared about their students.
Right, right. And I know you touched on this briefly earlier, but I wanted you to kind of talk about how Alcorn prepared you for your graduate studies and your career.
So again, when I think about that question, the sounding board was knowing that back in 2005 when I finished Alcorn, um, if you're in a meeting or you're in a panel interview, you have Alcorn State, you have Duke, you have, let's say, Michigan State, et cetera. Alcorn gave me an opportunity to have a seat at the table to interview for some of the premier, leadership development programs. But the brand itself at that time wasn't strong enough in a sense to actually have an alumni on the inside like yourself that's willing to open doors or build a bridge, so to speak, for you to enter. So I think personally the international experience, the tough love and the accountability and the rigor within the classrooms really prepared me for corporate America. But if I had to define one specific factor about the HBCU community that really prepared me, I would say being able to interact with multicultural audiences, because here at the academic resort, you have students from India, professors from India, Russia,
Yeah.
South America, et cetera. For some students, you never ever have that true experience until you're on the job, but you lack that exposure. So having that exposure on the front end and having that international study abroad, India, Africa, and China, it really gave me a competitive edge. And it sort of was the sounding board for me to even do work with the United Nations as a liaison for my campus and different NGOs.
So talk to me about your professional career. I know that you touched on the fact that you started working in manufacturing, but talk about that journey to where you are now.
I would say the journey, in the beginning, it was very tough. A young Black male, Mississippi, you're traveling to the East Coast, still with the Southern, dialect. You have the Southern hospitality. You're managing people twice my age from Poland, from, Italy, European immigrants who also lacked an understanding of people from the South, specifically men of color. So I learned very quickly how to build and nurture and honor relationships. And as a manager and a person who's responsible for the supervision as well as the development of those individuals, it was sort of like being thrown in the fire, but learning on the fly and building those soft skills that would be necessary for both the professional career as well as the real world. And that career sort of parlayed into a successful career in higher ed, because regardless of what you're doing in the workforce, you're constantly developing people, you're educating people, you're training them. So what I did was package those experiences together. And, I had a gentleman by the name of Rick Rees who saw something in me, and I started my higher ed career off in the Office of Institutional Giving and Advancement, and it sort of parlayed into a graduate level adjunct professor role. And I've been successful in every endeavor thus far, and I'm really looking forward to one day, becoming a president of an HBCU.
I'm sure you'll accomplish that. That's what nukes do. We achieve. So I want to know, in your current role, what do you do in your present role?
So in my present role, it's sort of threefold. So in terms of the United Nations liaison role, it's sort of actively working with international students who come to the U.S. on, various types of visa, but giving them an opportunity to, sort of chaperone and be the point of professional contact for them as they apply for, roles at the UN or UN different allied agencies, et cetera, and also teaching them about cross-cultural competencies, anything within the lines of entrepreneurship, financial management, et cetera. We have a dedicated curriculum that focuses on building a person's career for diplomacy or international affairs. And I have the opportunity of being one of the many selected instructors to lead those courses.
So just in your professional journey, what have been some of the challenges or obstacles you've had to overcome to get to where you are today?
I would say, wow, I just had this question. I would say understanding how to manage your emotions. That's something that, wasn't taught to me when I was young. Alcorn really never gave me the experience in that area, because in the South, we're constantly taught, you pray on it, you pray on it, pray on it. But as you know, in the workforce, when you're making six-figure salaries, that's not a part of the professional development.
Right.
We pay you because we see the talent. And understanding your micro triggers and understanding how to manage your emotions and understanding the importance of professional development and being a long-term or lifetime student.
Yeah.
Those are some of the things that I often identify. And I would say, it's no secret, understanding the difference between a manager and a leader.
Right.
Understanding that, managers, you manage processes. Leaders, you have the honorary, opportunity to develop others and pour the equity of yourself within them. And many people only look at leadership as an opportunity of power and influence. So they sort of abuse that privilege.
Right.
I would say not having the right mentorship throughout my journey was also a disadvantage, but the reward in that is that you begin to look for other mentorships outside the realm of the corporations.
No, I agree. We do professional development at my company every Friday, and I think that's essential to my staff, being able to understand how to deal with just all types of challenges and issues, and really try to develop their thought process. So I would like to know from you, though, because you raised a very interesting point about being able to manage your emotions. And obviously, there have been many people that have fallen from grace or lost opportunity or whatever you want to call it, because they are unable to manage their emotions or unable to navigate through challenging situations. What are some of the, I guess, tips you would give someone watching in terms of how to conquer that?
I would say find a safe space within yourself to be vulnerable, and identify some of those childhood traumas that, you carried from your childhood into your professional life or adulthood, and figure out a way to have a real bold and authentic conversation with a mentor. And, that's the challenging factor, is who can I trust in the 21st century who will not turn that against me when I become successful, or when I have an opportunity to fulfill, my highest hopes and dreams. And I think once you can find or identify that person and confide in them, I think that's the first sign of healing. But it also is a first sign of professional growth, because how can you support someone else or develop someone else when you're not willing to be vulnerable with yourself and address the most important piece, what's within you?
Right. So, Larry, tell me about someone, whether it's a parent or relative or professor, who would you say has been most influential in your life and helping you to get to where you are?
I would say he's on your staff. I would say John.
Really?
Yeah, the thing that I love about John is that John has this hardcore image, this demeanor, but he's really a teacher. He's a mentor, and he's big. When I say bigger than Kappa, if you are a noob, he will pour equity into you. But when you know him on a personal but a professional level, he is a wealth of knowledge.
Right.
He's willing to open himself up. He's okay with allowing you to see who he used to be and how he's evolved and become the professional that he is. And even today, when he gave me a call this morning, I took the call because I know him.
Right.
And And I know that he's one of those brothers. And when I say brothers, I'm not just talking about Kappa. I'm talking about a real brother, a brother you can call upon.
Right.
He's one of those brothers that he really is about the greater good of himself and the greater good of anyone else or anyone within his circle. And he 100% wants to create opportunities and open doors for you, whether it's with his personal contact, a contact within yourself,
Right.
or even if it's a contact abroad. You know, he's always that, I call him the volunteer professional development coach. He's he's always there. He always has something. If you're complaining, he will turn the complaint into a coachable and meaningful moment. So I have to say John.
Yeah, and just for the audience, John Smith is the Vice President of Higher Education and Public Infrastructure for my firm, the P3 Group, so that the audience will know who we're talking about. But John essentially knows just about everybody in the world. I mean, there's not a single person, I don't care what position they hold. If you tell John, I'm trying to get in touch with this person, you give John anywhere from 3 to 24 hours, and he's going to get you connected with that person. So he's a wealth of knowledge and someone that has been able to build and maintain just unbelievable relationships throughout his lifetime. And he's still a young guy. I mean, John's probably 5 years or so younger than me, but it's just amazing as to the wealth of knowledge that he has. I want to ask you, from where you sit now, how important is it to you to give back to the community and give back to the institutions that have helped you get to where you are?
I think it's very important. Again, someone, whether it was, working in advancement really exposed me to this, is that many students don't understand that if you're on a scholarship, right, that scholarship did not fall out of the sky. That could be D. Brown's investment into the university or major gift donation. It's someone's hard-earned money, right?
Right.
So going through undergrad, I never spent a dollar of my money, ever. I worked hard. I had the GPAs. People believed in me. I was always giving grants, et cetera. So I think it's good karma to give back to your university. And giving back doesn't always have to be monetary. It could be simply as giving the president of Alcorn State, an introduction to the United Negro College Fund, who recently had $1.5 million worth of funding. Yeah. Or it could be to the point of helping 5 students land an internship at a Wall Street firm or with NASA. So giving back can look so many different ways. I think that many people get stuck on money, so they sort of shy away and put themselves in isolation.
Right.
But I try to give back in so many different variety of ways, because it's very, very, very important to make sure that you're giving someone the same equity that someone provided you.
Right, right. And I often bring this subject up on this show because I think that's one of the areas that we as African Americans that we're lacking in terms of supporting the institutions and communities that have paved the way and given us so many great opportunities. And I think that that's one of the ways we can start to bridge the gap or close the gap because, as you know, HBCUs, and it's no secret, have such a challenge with competing with adequate resources and having access to resources as the PWI counterparts. And a lot of that is due in large part because of that we have not collectively, I think, risen to the occasion to provide those financial resources and support back to those organizations. And not just the HBCUs, but even the communities that we come from, going back to your high schools or to your community and being able to give back and give someone a hand up in that community is important as well.
Correct.
Yep. So I want to close the show out by giving you the opportunity to pitch Alcorn to some young high school student or junior or community college student who may be considering furthering their education at an HBCU. Why should they select Alcorn State University?
Listen, if you want an opportunity to be at an academic resort, if you're an athlete, football team, just as a whole, Alcorn, unparalleled to any other HBCU, will open doors both globally, domestically, but it also will open doors within yourself for you to explore and figure out who you really are through the cultural experiences here on campus. So why not choose Alcorn?
Hey, well, look, I could not have said it any better myself. I think that someone would listen and take the call. And Larry, I want to thank you for being on this episode of HBCU and for what all you have accomplished. I want to present you with this HBCU Lifetime Achievement Award for your continued support and commitment to historically Black colleges and universities. And you'll be receiving this in the mail from my staff. And to my viewers, I want to thank you for watching this episode of HBCU. I'm your host, D. Brown, CEO. And remember, without you, there's no me.